Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the Cosmic Wizard Show. My name is Rio Larman, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the astrology of right now. We're in the final times of Cancer season, and coming up on the 8th, we're going to be getting a really powerful new moon in Leo. This might not match what you have been hearing with mainstream astrology. However, it does match the actual sky. And I've got other videos that goes into why this is important, but check it out and see if it resonates. And yeah, I'm filming in Zoom today, so the video quality might not be great, but the audio quality tends to be a lot better. So we're just gonna roll with it because it's a little fuzzy, right? You aren't here to see my face, you're here to hear about the stars. So let's hop into it. Let's see here. It's the end of Cancer season. How have you all been feeling? Have you been experiencing all the feelings, processing all those emotions? I can tell you one thing, I've been having crazy dreams. Tons of them, tons of dreams about like family members who've crossed over and that sort of stuff. I don't know if you guys really have much of an ancestor process, but that's something that is featured in one my practice quite a bit, because I have quite a few family members who I've been very close to as they have died. So it's just part of my practice to talk to them a lot, that sort of thing. And it can be a little bit tough on this like half of the year. You know, once the sun starts to become like much more predominant, at least for me, I notice it big time. I live in a northern climate, right? But the veil really does get thicker, I find. And, you know, it can be a little bit harder to reach those spirits, speak to them, and have that kind of back and forth interaction in my experience anyways. Who knows, you can tell me below if you find that that's the case. Do you notice the veil, whether it thins or not? We've been talking about this in the Sidereal Revolution Facebook group, and it's something that's very interesting to me because come springtime, I find often it's a lot harder to make those connections. It's not that they aren't there, you know, I can still talk to them, and if I keep my eyes open, I can still like see evidence of them answering me, but it's not quite the same. It's not as if they're like right there at my shoulder anytime I want, like it is much more in the winter months. The Cancer season is kind of nice for that because it tends to bring these dreams to the surface, you know. Lots of people who I've talked to have been having intense, rather like vivid dreams of loved ones who have passed. So that's an interesting side effect that tends to come up during Cancer season, right? Because I mean, Cancer is very much about our roots, about our lineage, our ancestors. It brings that up in a slightly more like ethereal way a little bit. And Cancer season is classic for all the dreams coming out, right? So yeah, let me know if you've been experiencing any of that below. And I'm going to share my screen and we're going to take a look at this new moon. All right, so here we go. Interesting. We're going to pull some tarot, I think, just for fun. I've been getting back into tarot. It's a nice way to sort of just connect to the very intuitive side of things a little bit more, right? So in my time zone anyways, this new moon is just going to be rising. Actually, it happens at 7:30 in the morning. That's super interesting. It makes me think that it's going to be like bringing just some more like new life into our world. Something's being born here, you know. And oh, hold hold on a second. This is where we get a little bit tricky here, right? If we take a look at this, by the IAU boundaries, this would be occurring in the constellation of Cancer. And by using the midpoint system, it would be occurring like right at the start of Leo. So that's interesting. Basically what we can, there's going to be another Leo new moon too. So really, this is going to be like really, really heavy, cuspy energy. You know, it's a little bit in the middle, what's going on here, right? And, you know, I find with Cancer season, it can be quite intense with just, you know, it tends to bring up areas, well, Gemini season anyways, tends to bring up areas of like experiences of wanting to go outside of our comfort zone, you know, and try new things and experience new situations and people and that sort of situation. And then oftentimes Cancer can be like a pause and recalibration zone of like, oh wow, like I stepped out of my comfort zone. Cancer sometimes can be a little bit of a stepping back in, where it's not necessarily that you don't want to move forward with this new energy. It's more, it's a time of pause to like recalibrate how our inner world handles this new information, you know, and maybe even a little bit of like a softening of the shell a little bit, like when we gather all of this new information and new experiences in Gemini season. Cancer is a little bit of a sidestep to take some time and just like look at all of the areas where your old ideas were maybe a little bit too rigid and how to really nourish the emotional body and care for it while it's kind of making these upgrades, you know, and going through this evolutionary process of taking in this new information and deciding, oh, like, what does this mean? What does this mean for like my inner processes, my emotions? Have I been holding on to things? All of this. And really just like letting the waters cleanse you a little bit, taking a break in the pool and letting it all integrate. You know, that's the thing with that I'm starting to learn a bit about receptive or quote like feminine energy, right? In our world, how our society is set up, it's very, very like active, quote, masculine type of energy of always having to do a thing. You always have to do the things. You're always doing the work, you know. You're always doing, going, doing. No, the receptive, the feminine is much more about just being, you know. It's not about going and doing the thing. It's about pausing and opening to, I mean, to receive, yes, but to just be, you know, and it's a process of really opening, which can be like hard when you've been trying to do all your life, right? So this is, this has been a major lesson for me throughout Cancer season. In this really, really cuspy new moon, you know, it might be just like a really, really good time too, because new moons, right, it's all about, I mean, on one hand, it's about setting intentions, right, and planting the seeds. But it's also, especially with this talk that I'm just saying about like opening, receiving, etc., it is also about just being, right? Because the tricky part about the new moon, you can't even see the new moon in the sky, right? So we can set intentions and do the thing all we want, but at the end of the day, we're the seed. right? We are the seed, and it's not necessarily about aggressively planning and doing a thing as much as sometimes it is about just being like silent in the darkness a little bit. The thing with seeds, you know, you stick them in the dirt, they get a little bit of water, they sprout, you know, are they actively, is that actively something that they're doing? Or, you know, is it just something that is remembered in their entire being? Right? New moons are very much, they're kind of like the Aries sort of zone. If we were to attach a sign to the new moon, it's very much instinctual. It's about just like waking up to this feeling of life and going towards it for the sake of going towards that feeling of life. You know, it's not because you know what it's going to turn into. You know, it's entirely possible that you're not going to see what it's going to turn into at all. It's about following that like energetic impulse towards. Just taking a look at the chart here. Maybe I'm gonna pull this picture up so that you can see. You can see my little pointer a little more. Right, so depending on the boundaries you use, whether you use a midpoint or whether you use the IAU boundaries, either way, this moon is like super, super cuspy. Some would say Cancer, some would say Leo. Yeah. However, it's kind of in the middle there, right? And I feel like this is symbolic in a way of this new moon energy. It's in the middle. You've taken some time to rest, reflect, soak the summer in a little bit, soak your feelings in, maybe take lots of naps, you know, all these Cancerian things. And we're in this sort of dark zone where we can't necessarily see where we're going, but the sun is coming in. The sun is coming in its home sign of Leo to awaken you up to some sort of creative impulse inside of you. So I would say, like, practice just being as much as possible. You know, if you find yourself in like loops of the mind, trying to plan all of this, you know, by all means, if that's, no, I'm just like, don't get me wrong, planning's good, it's got its uses, this, that, and the other, but like we aren't actually hitting Virgo season for a while yet. Like this is about the creative stage that is life a little bit. Try and Leo is a super, super creative sign. And you know, I don't know how many of you have really like done a lot of art or practiced some sort of artistic something, right? But it's very much, I find personally, about being in the flow, and opening yourself to the muses. So how can you open up to just like being and let the creative process of life flow through you at this time? We're really just a vessel for our souls, you know, which is overwhelming to think about at times. But I mean, in my opinion, a lot more interesting to think about than some of the day-to-days of life. But in your day-to-days of, are you allowing your soul's like purpose to move through you? You know, are you open to feeling joy or just like a feeling in general, right? The highs, the lows, and really just experiencing life from like the seat of your soul a little bit. Leo energy, it is like classically maligned for being selfish, you know, but there's a good side and a bad side to that. And at the end of the day, you are the center of your universe. You know, at the end of the day, it's up to you to take care of yourself. It's up to you to make sure that you are experiencing the life that you want to live. And like, you're going to be the person there to hold your hand when everyone else is gone. You know, you're the one who gets yourself through all the shit. So, I mean, it could be argued that some degree of selfishness is necessary just for the experience of life. And certainly in Leo season, I would argue this. And I think, you know, really aligned Leos are great because they just like, they go and they exude so much energy, and aligned Leo energy is so great too, because it just like, it gives everyone permission to just express yourself the way that you want to express yourself, you know, and to be a little bit selfish and you know, follow the path of your own adventure. Fire signs are classically, actually this isn't super classic, this is something I learned in evolutionary astrology, but in evolutionary astrology, fire signs are linked to our special destiny, you know? And so for that reason, there's a necessary sort of selfishness about it. Fire in certain shaman schools of thought is the great perceiver, you know? And what are we if not this being who's experiencing and perceiving life? And during this time, I would say it's a really, really great time to just open ourselves up to having that experience. And we've got a Saturn opposition. I'm going to pop over to nature again. We have a Saturn opposition happening. And with oppositions, this is often stuff that is brought up situations from other people. So you might be feeling like resistance from the other people in your life, or just from like situations that you're looking at in the world where it feels like you can't really experience it. But I would urge you to not necessarily take that on as like just automatic truth, you know? And with Saturn, this is very much about like building structures, building systems, and in one of its higher forms, I think really devotion. So how could you at this time be devoted to like build a life where you get to experience life and really truly live, you know? And we got this T-square happening with Uranus as well. So, you know, this might feel like in order to like go your own way, you're going to seem like the weirdo, and maybe there's going to be a little bit of rejection. That's okay. Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to like anyone. You're not everyone's cup of tea. But what's important? That relationship with yourself, because you're always going to be stuck with you. So make sure that you're taking those chances to do the things that are going to bring you, you know, just the life that you want to live, the experiences you want to live, the drama, you know. Leo is the actor on the stage of life. It's about like going out and experiencing and living and like trying on those dreams a little bit. Times playing out the dramas that you want to see happen in your life. We've got a trine happening from Venus to Pluto. This too, you know, it kind of brings up these hidden forces a little bit, these hidden instincts and urges that you know, open up to them. There's an energy there. There's energy that you can't quite see, that you can't necessarily explain or know what its purpose is going to be, but it desires to be experienced through you. One thing that I get the impression of this, not only because of this Saturn opposition, but also because the nodes are on fixed stars as well. I don't know a huge amount about fixed stars, but I had a reading recently with Michael from One Sky Astrology, and he was telling me a bit about these fixed stars, Antares and Aldebaran. And I mean, a theme that tended to come through was, and this I feel like is also a bit of a Leo lesson in and of itself, and especially opposing Saturn, you know, have integrity. Have integrity. Like, the keywords that Michael gave me was no drama for drama's sake, right? So we were just talking a little bit about this like Leo energy. We want to find ways to channel that in, you know, you want to go towards exciting situations that get you like lit up, but don't necessarily waste that energy in like petty drama that isn't going to actually be good for anyone. You know, at this time, this can be just this beautiful time for expression and trying out new things and deepening into your expression as well. And it's good to have a certain level of selfishness, but you don't want to use people. You don't want to, you know, just don't worry about other people's opinions if what you're doing is just like walking your walk or walking your talk. That's fine. On the flip side, don't get involved in other people's dramas. You know, use this time of self-centeredness to be truly self-centered and make sure that you're like moving towards a path that will get you towards like the dramas you want to unfold in your life, not just like getting involved in petty dramas of all the other people. You know, have that integrity, have that devotion to your own self-process. I'm gonna pull some cards too. You guys up to for the moment? Good plans. Any things you're checking out? What's the prominent energy that's wanting to move through the collective at this time? All right, so first of all, I've got the Knight of Cups reversed. The Knight of Cups is the Grail Knight in the tarot. And, you know, it's for that. It's interesting. I've mentioned Michael once already. You guys should check out his, if you're curious about this entire moon cycle, you should check out his video on this lunar cycle that he has up. And he talks about King Arthur and the Round Table a little bit. And here we have the Knight of Cups. It kept flashing at me while I was shuffling. And we have the Knight of Cups reversed, right? So we got this Grail Knight, and you know, there are themes of feminine sovereignty within the Grail story a little bit. I always look at it as like this great search for some kind of divine treasure. You know, that's not necessarily how I look at it. That's the sort of literal story for it, right? But the way I think of it often is, what are you willing to devote your life to? You know, what is the treasure that you are willing to like devotedly walk this path for, you know. In cups, these are very creative cards as well. But I can't help but notice, you know, this is reversed, which gives me a little bit of a Neptunian vibe, you know. At the end of the day, you have to be choosy about what you give your time to, right? Anytime we're dealing with Saturn, we're dealing with issues of time. You have to be choosy about what you decide to vote, or yeah, I mean, it is a vote, really. What you decide to devote your greatest resource to, you know, because at the end of the day, we're all gonna die. Time is finite. It's up to you to decide if you're spending your time and your energy and your creative life force, right? See, on something that's actually going to make your soul sing, something that's going to build on this experience. You know, we are here to live life, not just sit by and consume what we're told, you know. And with a reverse Knight of Cups, it gives me a little bit like malefic Neptune vibe. What's going on with Neptune? Ooh, Neptune opposite Venus. Okay, yep, that's coming through. You know, Venus is all about A, our values, and B, receiving. You know, it's the feminine principle of opening and being abundant. And Neptune opposite Venus is tricky. This reverse Knight of Cups gives me a real Pied Piper vibe. It is up to you to decide how you are going to spend your life force. And you are the only person who can actually be responsible for that decision. Like I said earlier, you're the only person that's going to be with you constantly, no matter what. You can't let other people make choices for you. You can't let illusions and delusions and very, very dreamy fantasies that are based on the pedestalization of people, facts. With Venus, we might be talking like love situations, could be talking money situation. Neptune rules television. You know, this is going to be a time to turn off the TV a little bit, maybe turn off the news, spend some time in nature, just like getting in the flow and doing your own creative thing, you know, tapping into yourself, tapping into your body, which direction you want to go. Yeah, don't get pushed onto some like epic journey of a path, and because someone else tells you that you have to, because you believe somewhere that there's no other option, you know. With this like Grail Knight energy, like this is a long haul kind of business. Don't allow your emotions to get hijacked, right? Because in the cups, we're always talking about emotions. With this Neptune, Venus, this is about like, this is very much a receptive kind of energy. Be careful of, like, I'd say this is a really good time to practice grounding. And when things seem too good to be true at this time, it's quite possible they are. Yeah, Neptune has a great side, but Neptune has a deliciously evil side. Like anyone who's been through like intense, hard Neptune transits will know it's like it hijacks your goddamn brain. And you start just like believing in fantasies. Oh, and it feels so great, so delightful, but it isn't sourced from reality. It's just sourced from a story you like spin up in your head, you know. the what ifs, the fairy tales, the imagine when everything's gonna be fine again. You know, if we might be a little pointed towards some current events. We're all convinced everything's just gonna go back to normal. What is normal? Change is a constant, you know? Anytime you find yourself during this new moon attracted to an idea that is just not super based in reality and it tends to be very, very easy to play the story out over in your head over and over and over again, imagining it, imagining how beautiful it'll be, imagining how wonderful it will feel. But it's a little bit of a candy-coated delusion fog. That portion was not particularly pointed. This was just talking about Neptune in and of itself, you know. Oh, Neptune is in Pisces too now and getting into its own waters. The fog is even thicker, you know. Just be careful with that. Be careful with that. Okay, Nine of Cups is also up. So we got more cups. Nine of Cups tends to be the card of wishes. You know, we've got Saturn opposing this new moon, which feels like intense restriction. We've got Neptune opposing this Venus. You know, and I have to continue to stress the fact that Neptune rules television. So this gives me like a major vibe. Again, I'm gonna repeat it because it just feels very true. Turn off the television. Turn off the television. Turn off the television. Turn off the television. You know, like anything that's gonna be in a constant stream of advertising, you know, turn it off. Even just like the scrolling, the Facebook scrolling, turn it off. Turn it off. It is a technological siren sound that just wants your attention, you know, and it's like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Everything's really, really scary. Oh, everything's so hard. Nothing is going to be okay. Everyone is dying. Oh my God, this is all so hard. You know what would make you feel better? A pizza. You know what would make you feel even better? The bombs. Everyone is dying. Would you like some fries? Would you like some hamburgers? Like, for real, just turn it off. That shit hijacks your brain. I'm not saying that there isn't bad things out in the world that are happening, but ask yourself, does consuming this information in any sort of a position to actually help? Or am I just allowing a computer virus essentially to hijack my brain? You know, the truth of the matter is the way that memory works, like every time let's say you have a memory, right? That's the original memory. When you think about that memory again, instead of like keeping the original save file, essentially, it hits save as, right? So the more times you think about this memory, every time you think about this memory, it'll hit save as, save as, save as. Tiny little changes happen over time, you know? It has been proven in some very interesting experiments that the human brain doesn't necessarily remember what is true. It remembers what it has been told the most amount of times. So you need to be very mindful, you know, I'm not trying to tell you what's true, what isn't. I'm just saying be mindful of the information that you allow to repeat itself to you constantly, you know, because that's the way it works. And with the current situation as it is, you know, we live in a very consumerist society, and it is not unfair or outrageous to say that, you know, when people are upset, when people have insecurities, it's good for business. It is always good for business when people are feeling insecure. So these companies who are based on profit are going to be wanting to hijack your system so that you feel insecure, so that you buy these things. And in doing so, though, like, just as a natural byproduct of being exposed to these images over and over and over again, right? We are going to like download viruses into our system, essentially, that believe that they're facts, just running through our brains, right? And with things the way they are, shit's been scary. Shit's been very scary, right? So it can feel, shit's been really scary and it's been hard to do things. There have been legitimate restrictions, and it can feel like there's no way out. But there's always a way out. You may have to be creative about it, you know, but the answer is not to just sit there and believe that there's nothing you can do, so continue to consume all of the computer viruses. No. It is time to take some time to sit with ourselves, right? Again, all this Leo action, it's time to be self-centered, is a vitally important part of the mission at times, certainly at this time with so much action in Leo, heading into Leo. You know, it's time to turn off the television and think about what it is that you want. What are your wishes? Nine of Cups is the classic wish card. You want it, you can get it. It can happen for you. It can, right? It's a matter of taking step-by-step actions. This is very Saturnian too, right? This is the Knight of Pentacles. He's the only knight in the classic decks whose horse isn't moving. You know, Knight energy tends to be rather like, hurrah! But Knight of Pentacles, a little less so, pretty solid, right? He gets the job done. It might seem kind of boring at times, but he taking step-by-step actions, right? Which is pretty much always my cookbook words for Saturn, right? So it's taking those tiny little steps. How do you get up the mountain? One step at a time. Even if it doesn't feel like progress, even if you have to very consciously interrogate the voice in your head saying that everything's always going to be terrible, nothing's going to be okay ever again. Or maybe one day, you know, maybe we'll get like, maybe you're experiencing a vacillation of everything's horrible, everyone's dying, versus one day everything's going to be fine. I swear, I promise, it's going to be fine. It's going to be right back to normal. That's just the way it's going to be. You know, there's that Neptune sign. We got Saturn as, we've got like the Saturn devil and the Neptune angel on our shoulders a little bit. Like, we got to find the middle path, you know? We got to be able to be like, whoa, hold up. Didn't ask for your opinion. Focus. Ground down. What is it that I actually want to achieve in life? The only thing you actually have responsibility for is yourself. That's what you can affect. That's what you can change. So what are the tiny little steps that we can take now that might make sense? They might not make sense. You might not know where they're going, but you just got to like follow those impulses a little bit. You don't need to choose right now. You don't need to choose. Right now is a good time for meditation and, you know, looking situations in the eyes, looking people in the eyes, having face-to-face actual discussions, letting go of the possible need to know how it's all going to turn out or know what it's going to look like, and just flow through life and exchange some love, whether this is in friendships or if this is within relationships. This is the Two of Cups. It's like a pretty classic relationship. This is one of my favorite Two of Cups in existence. With this Neptune Venus action and getting this, it's time to take your partners off the pedestal. It's time to stop trying to figure out everything in a daydream in your mind and like get face to face and get real about what is and what is present at it. Nine of Swords. What did I say? What have I been saying about these computer viruses? They're shadows. These fears that we have, a lot of them are shadows. They aren't necessarily anything real. They're something that looks really, really scary in the dark, right? They're nightmares. They aren't real. Gotta gather with your homies. Spend some time at some kind of a celebration. Just get together in a situation where you can maybe even feel a little bit nostalgic and just like have those cups overfilling with love. I would potentially argue in the presence of real people, but however makes you comfortable. You can still have a Zoom party if that's where you're at. An Eight of Cups. Every new cycle is the end of something. Every beginning is an ending, every ending is beginning, etc., etc. You're ready to walk away from something emotionally. There's so much coming up here that's in the cups. I feel like this is, it matches up with the fact that we're in this really cuspy zone of whether it's like leaving Cancer, not quite in Leo kind of zone. Listen to what your emotional body is telling you, and if it's time to pack up and go, then like here's your sign, man. Pack your bag. It's time to move on. You've grown up perhaps a little bit for some sort of situation involved here. You're no longer feeling the same way about a situation that you used to be. With this Two of Cups that came up, as well as this like Neptune Venus, maybe some situation is coming to your attention that's making you realize like, oh, I have been putting this person on a pedestal. This isn't actually real. I'm holding them to like expectations of the person that I have that exists in my mind, or perhaps that's happening to you. Do you feel like your lover doesn't even really see you for who you are? Do you feel like it's time to move on from a situation that seemed really, really great, and like a magical fairy tale, but now has turned into a nightmare a little bit? That's okay. It's okay to feel differently than you did once. It's okay to have space for that. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay for new information to come in that changes the whole world. That's fine. I think I'm going to stop it at about there at this moment. I could keep going, but yeah, we'll keep it shortish. I don't even know how long we're at right now. So lastly, if anyone would like to book a private reading with me, head over to www.cosmicwizard.ca. We can book some time to dig into your chart deeper or do some tarot cards, whatever you want, and really just get some one-on-one time to check out what that soul of yours is asking of you at the moment. And let's go over transits. So essentially, when I read birth charts, digging into what is asking to be expressed, and with a special focus of what is currently being triggered at this time. So if that sounds interesting, head on over to my website and I will see you soon. I hope you have a fabulous